Okay, so it's 2 nights before this time, I guess, for the local experience. This time I am getting myself ready for locals this weekend. I've got pretty much the deck down that I want to be playing, so I put a poll out for you guys, and you kind of just reaffirm the deck that I was looking forward to playing, and that's going to be Darklords. Now, ultimately, the question is, what version of Darklords do I want to play? Now, me personally, I really want to try and stick towards like pure. Whether you count the Canby engine as pure or not is entirely up to you, but I'm trying to avoid going down the Melodious route. I'm trying to avoid going down the Sulphur Chord route, because I really want to get the baseline of what Darklords want to be able to try and do and achieve, and then build off the back of that. So I've pretty much got the deck here. I'm not going to show you the list until right at the end, like after I've gone to the tournament, to be like, this was the list that I played. These are kind of like the staple cards that I'm sticking with as well at the moment. Nothing's really changed. The big kind of question mark and difference is you've got these 5 flex spots in the extra deck right now, which are your super poly targets. And the reason that they're a flex spot is that if you wanted to play the Melodious, I would take out the super polymerization, because you take out 3 super polymerization and then filter the rest in. Now, what I like about the Melodious package, if you wanted to, and it is 8 cards, is it's just 3 more starters in the form of the Refrain, and then 3 more power cards in the form of the Ostinato. The idea is that you would resolve the Ostinato, you work your way into Barker, and you ultimately end up getting 2 monsters on the field at least that can then be linked off into the Condemned Darklord, and that's your starter. You still play the Canby, it's just another way. Like, you're just adding this to it. So in place of super polymerization that can be like a hit and miss kind of option, you could consider the Fallen and the Virtuous, but the idea is you're basically playing a card that would break a field in place of like a power spell. The Fallen and the Virtuous is another card that I'm tempted to try and play and fit in, but ultimately it's finding space in the main deck to take out in order to then put in. Like, the extra is not an issue. Like, I could very easily, these 5 cards here, you would take out 3 super polymerization, you put in 3 Fallen and the Virtuous, and you go down that particular route, which isn't a bad route to go down. So that's still something that I'm trying to figure out. Another option I'm considering is the Canine package, but very base minimum would just be the 3 Azuna, the 1 Lupus, as like your hand interaction kind of option. And then another kind of engine that I've considered is play the Loose, the Dusk's Dark. You'd play this in the extra deck, 1 Biol and 1 Mutiny in the main deck. Another option I looked at is playing the 1 Celestial Nightlord Parshaf. Now, this is purely because through the Darklord plays, you will fairy lock yourself. And what I liked about Parshaf is that you could discard a card to add a card that mentions Sanctuary in the Sky, and the card that I'd go to add would be the Sanctuary of the Parshaf. In doing so, adding this card, it basically becomes Sanctuary in the Sky 1 on the field, but all of my fairy monsters will gain 300 attack and defense, and then set spells and traps I control cannot be targeted or destroyed by my opponent's card effects, or just by card effects in general. I could target 3 fairy monsters and or counter traps with different names in the graveyard, place them on the top of the deck in any order. So it just allows me to recycle for a bit of a grind state, but it's ultimately like, if I fairy lock myself, I can go to Parshaf, I can discard another card, get me the Sanctum, and then Sanctum will protect like my set cards and everything else in between. So kind of give me a little bit more of an option, and it basically just added a brick to the main deck, which I didn't feel was necessary. So we're at this bit of a crossroads right now. I've cut the deck back down. I was at like 44. I think I've cut it back down to 42 because I'm not going to rely on the Indulged Darklords, which is an interesting one, but ultimately this just doesn't do everything on its own. Like, if this is your normal summon in comparison to Jehuti, this will give your opponent a monster, let you search a Darklord, but then you need to extend your play. So it's not perfect. The reason I was slightly tempted by the Melodious package was for the pure fact that I felt that if you start with Jehuti, okay, Jehuti just gets hit with every interaction. Imperm, Veiler, Impulse, Ash Blossom as well. So I was like, okay, well, if I get hit with the Jehuti, the best thing I can do at that point is turn it into Almirage, and then I still need a play to make. So I was like, oh, okay, can I protect the Jehuti? Do I like not worry about my opponent having all these interactions? Do I go for like the all gas level and just go power through it? So there's a lot to kind of consider. Like, this is the gas version, but then it takes away from the pure elements of playing Darklords. This is the breaker version, being able to play super polymerization, and then kind of work it that way. So a couple of different options to figure out there. I'm still trying to figure out the side deck as well. Like, At the moment, I'm looking at Evenly Matches, Meows, Perulias, Drolls, and Nibiru's. Tempted by Herald of Purple Light. You could play a third Herald of the Green Light if you wanted to. And then I've got 3 Lightning Storm. So at the moment, this would be my 15-card side deck. But I'm not too set on Lightning Storms right now. It's just to kind of have a Spell and Trap interactor. So when you're in a predicament like this, and this is kind of a bit of advice that I can give those of you that are watching, don't worry about the extra deck. Now, what I mean by that is you can play, like, during testing, you can play as many of your extra deck cards as you want. You could have like a 50-card extra deck just during testing. The only thing that will dictate or change is what you're going to play in the main deck. So I've tested with the Ostinato package or the Melodious package, and then I take them out and put the cards in that I would play instead, which at this moment in time is 2 Herald of the Green Light and Super Polymerization. I tried these out, they were kind of cool, but ultimately they weren't necessary. They were just like another added option, so I didn't feel that I needed to clog the deck down with them. And ultimately what you end up doing, or what I tend to do, just to kind of get the muscle memory going. Now, of course, you can test online as well, and that will give you the interactions from your opponent, so you can start to learn different ways you can play through. So ultimately my question of, is Jehuti enough to play? That kind of gets answered a bit more. Like if you're testing it and you're constantly getting hand out, then you know it's not. But I feel that if you're going to be taking this to the highest competitive environment, you might want to consider the Melodious engine. Because not only does it give you more fairies, it gives you a Pendulum Summon option, it could open up rank 4 options for you if you wanted to. It really does kind of like open up the extra deck quite a bit. I'm going to still stick with Pure because I think this is the baseline that I will utilize, learn, test, and then go, right, okay, it definitely needs the Melodious engine, or okay, it can play without the Melodious engine, or Super Polymerization might not be that good in the environment. That's where you would change it for the Fallen and the Virtuous, and vice versa, and swings and roundabouts. So I'm not going to do like full test hands, but just to kind of give you an idea of how this would work. But you like open up your opening hand of 5. I've added in Forbidden Droplets from my previous profile. And you can see like right here, this hand is pretty godly. But then I'm like, well, if Ixchill, Droplet, or Crown was an Ostinato, this whole hand explodes. Now, the way that I kind of look at it is if I saw a card in my hand that would be in place of the Ostinato or the engine of the Melodious, like Super Polymerization, Herald of the Green Light, then I could use them as a substitute. When I'm opening up hands like this, I'm like, cool, I've got the Canby that will bait out an Ash, an Impulse, try and work through stuff like that, which can then ultimately end up getting me into the Condemned Darklord, and then you build on from there. And then you save your normal summon of the Jehuti, which is why the Ostinato is so good, because it's like, if the Ostinato was here, you'd start with Ostinato, baits out Bell, baits out Ash, work your way through everything you need to. It would put you in Nibiru territory, but then again, the only time Nibiru would suck is that Nibiru would then turn off the Canby. And then that's where you ultimately end up going down the route of, well, if you're building this, you can work your way into Melodious Magnificent, and at least you can tag this out and still have that monster to come back to the field, but you're only ever going to really be able to return 1 card your opponent controls. The Proxy F bridge into this one is to the pure fact that there are ways where you can go into Proxy F Magician and get access to Golgot, and then Golgot gives you the 2 monsters you need for the fusion material, but you've already used, or you can't get access to the fusion spell. So, and then ultimately what I'll end up doing is I'll just keep shuffling hands. Like that hand was good. I feel that I could have played for a couple of like hand interactions from my opponent, and then I keep testing and testing and testing. I wouldn't want to add the K9 package to this current list. I would have to find cards to sacrifice for it. And ultimately, when the K9 package itself is 4 cards, and then you put Ripper in the extra deck, you kind of question if it's worth it. And then the Fallen and the Virtuous is just kind of really down to environment more than anything else. Because if you're like, okay, cool, Super Polymerization is not going to be good for my environment, you go, right, that's fine. Try 3 Fallen and the Virtuous in its place. You save the discard, which could be quite useful for you. You don't worry about the fairy lock that you put yourself under sometimes as well. And you're able to kind of constantly recycle that resource. Can be massively, massively helpful. So cut up again and again, just do a random, like look at your opening 5 cards and then make your assessment with what you see. So when I look at a hand like this, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, this is of no use to me. This is of no use to me like directly, but they're fairies. So I have a line of protection against Nibiru. I've got a line of protection against Perulia if I want to. And if I feel that by activating Banishment, and if my opponent with this particular hand here was to Ash the Banishment, I would have nothing, but I'm protected with the Herald of the Orange. So I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen here? I activate Banishment, I don't get hit with an Ash Blossom, that's fine. What am I going to search? Well, I'm going to search my starter in the Jehuti. If my opponent drolls me, is that a bit of a big issue? Ultimately, it is, because the Golgot needs to search the Darklord spell card, and then it also means that the Condemned Darklord would need to send the monster from the deck to the grave, which would be the Golgot, and kind of work on from there. So after I resolve this, if my opponent drolls me, does my turn end? And really, it kind of becomes a little bit weaker, because I'd have to go normal summon down Jehuti effect to special summon, and kind of work from there. But you probably want to protect this more times than not. Again, you try and play out all these worst case scenarios. Normal summon down Jehuti. If they Ash me, if they Veiler me, I can protect. But if they Imperm or Impulse me, I can't protect, and Jehuti sticks there as a 0/0, and I'm like, right, cool. Turn this into Almirage, that's the best I can do with a hand like this. I can protect from destruction as well, which is quite useful, but that's pretty much as good as it gets. So you kind of have to be like, right, well, Herald of Orange and then a Ash Blossom. Like, how much further can you push? So I haven't seen Super Polymerization. I haven't seen Herald of the Green Light. So the way that I look at it is, in equivalence to that, I wouldn't be able to see them in... I wouldn't be seeing the Melodious package. I wouldn't be seeing the Canine package. I wouldn't be seeing the Herald of the... the Fallen and the Virtuous package. So again, you're just making these deliberations of how useful is it. And when you go through the extra deck, you kind of like, okay, well, if I'm doing these combos here, and I'll just do one more as a hypothetical to show you. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so with this hand here, it's very aggressive in the form of like breaking stuff, but it's also not very good in to like much else. So if I were to go Banishment, what would I want to add here? I can add any Darklord card, so I could very easily go for one of the trap cards. I could go, like, me being greedy, I would go for Yugioh. Now, there's no guarantee for it, but the idea would be that the only card that would really suck is if they droll you. And if they droll you, you're like, okay, probably should have gone for something different. But then you get greedy and go, well, if they don't droll me, I go Yugioh, draw 2, Golgot effect. Obviously, I've now drawn into the Darklord Dance. If I didn't, I'd add anything else. This lets me add any Darklord card. So we'll go, cool, we'll take the Contact. We can activate the Contact, bring back Yugioh. Yugioh can pay 1,000 to either use Banishment or Contact. We'll use Contact to bring back the Golgot. Golgot would then give you 2 tokens. You've then got the Dance you can activate for the 2 tokens. That would get you direct access into Evening Star. We're now on summon number 5, so Nibiru is a well and true possibility. Evening Star will set you 2, 1 spell, 1 trap. We've already used Banishment. We could set the Contact, but we've already used that as well, so it really doesn't make much of a difference of what you send. And if your opponent was to go, okay, cool, I'm going to Nibiru you now, you go, that's fine, chain Evening Star, and you can put the Banishment back into the deck, and at least you'd get a search of something like a Nasten or a follow-up or anything else you need to. So you're kind of playing out all these different theories and all these different routes in your head, but what you'd probably want to do here is link these 2 off. You've already used the Golgot effect to search. So you link these 2 off. If you're worried about a spell and trap, you'd go for the Herald and Mirage Light. Otherwise, you just go for the Condemned Darklord, and then you try and work your way into what's going to be more beneficial off the back of the Condemned Darklord. Remembering that you are fairy locked. So the remaining 5 cards in the extra deck that I'm still contemplating over are either going to be Fallen and the Virtuous targets in place of Super Polymerization. There'll be Super Polymerization targets, or there'll be some generic cards that I might consider floating around, being like Proxy F Magician, IP Masquerena, kind of like cards like that. So they're like the mini deliberations that you go through, or I go through as a duelist. Maybe you lot at home will do the exact same, but it's kind of just trying to figure out where you'd want to take it. And this is the grey area of the local environment. And what I mean by that is, like, super polymerization is probably more beneficial down to the environment. If your environment is weaker to super polymerization, then it's a very good option to consider. If it's not, Fallen and Virtuous is going to be a little bit more balanced. And if you just want to be ultimately aggressive and make sure you've got, no matter what the matchup is, you've got the best possible outcome, you're going to lean towards the Melodious. Now, as I already mentioned, I'm going to stay away from the Melodious just for this particular region to keep this as a pure build. Like I said, if I was going to take this to a region or something, I'd probably be looking at adding the Melodious in and just being a bit more determined to utilize that one. So I'll also show you out these really cool sleeves as well, just as a bit of a flex. Or, well, not even a flex, because they're just really kind of cool. So I got the border sleeves are from Sleeve Chief, the mosaic sleeves, which is something that I found on Temu lately, was just something really, really kind of cool. There's loads of different designs I've got. I've got like, just as I undo the pile over here, I've got cool tune ones as well. Just something I'm quite a bit of a fan of right now, like the stained glass look of the sleeves. I think are really kind of cool. Yeah, so that's it for like the pre-event or pre-locals event. I'll be back here after some duels. You'll see some how the plays out, and then I'll give you the profile at the end as well and talk you through the matchups, the duels, and how I kind of felt it went, what changes I'd want to make, and kind of go from there. Anyway, I will be back in a second with some duel highlights for you all. Okay, so dumping straight into duel number 1. So this is up against the Dogmatica Regenesis build. As you see, very simplified game state right now. I'm currently top decking. Opponent's got the Typhon, and I left their empty field, and they were able to kind of Regenesis, get the last one back, and swing in for game. This is duel number 2, so this is just happening, showing what happens when Dance resolves. I got into the first of the Darklord. The first of the Darklord then uses this effect to kind of nuke the field. This kind of shows probably a little bit of inexperience against the deck, because they do have a bestial, a bestial Druid Swarm in the hand, if I remember rightly. So at this point in time, I'm in a kind of okay position. I do have a Herald of the Orange Light in the hand, but the idea will be that we've got Fallen the Virtuous. They can't target any of my fairy monsters because of the First of the Darklord. Great additional effect. We can only use one First of the Darklord effect, which is the destroy all of their cards, which is going to kind of like clear the field off, which is quite nice. They've got Regenesis Lord, Bestial Magnamut, Regenesis, the trap card. We leave the field empty, and we're like, okay, cool. Well, both of my Darklords have been made with, or at least one of them has been made with Dance. I'm pretty sure both of them have been made with Dance. So even if not, there's 5k on the first of the Darklords. They're going to activate the Fleur-de-Lis Thunderbolt to summon itself down. I've kind of semi-prepared myself for Druid Swarm, because you can see there that I use Ix-Chill to replicate enchantment to take control of the thing. Attack with this one. They then used the Bestial Magnamut, Druid Swarm. I used Herald of the Orange Light, and then that just kind of leads into game. Game number 3 ends up getting close to time. Only I concede right at the bit, give my opponent the win on that one. This is duel number 2 against Yugioh. They start off with Lotus, use Lotus effect, that gets hit with an Ash Blossom. See, that's pretty much enough to let them pass turn. They just set 2, and then without any resistance, you see that the field now starts to get pretty built. Neither of the 2 set cards have been used, but I'm always very cautious with this duelist, because this duelist likes to play Yugioh a little bit unorthodox. They like to play it with Superpolymerization, they like to play with Rivalry, as you can see there. Lucky for me, Rivalry has no effect against this deck. Gozen, on the other hand, would suck. And I've also got to be quite careful of Spirit. So you can see here that I attack in the battle phase, there's no Spirit, and still in the battle phase I use the Evening Star to replicate Dance, which then lets me banish the 3 Darklords to go into the first of the Darklords for the final effect without needing to use its effect, and win the game there. Now into the third and final duel. So this is what happens when Jehuti gets negated, and your hand isn't like ideal to continue. So I've had to use Jehuti, turn it into Almirage, it's been negated, which I'm pretty sure I can still do. I'm pretty sure it's an all-in-one effect. Either way, like, Jehuti would stay on the field. It doesn't make big of a difference anyway. Start off with Beryl. I'm like, I can't really afford for Beryl, because once Beryl gets Lordy Load and everything else, the deck starts to really, really tick. So we activate Forbidden Crown on the Beryl, which is quite effective, because it means Beryl then can't go into the Blue Eyes Link 1. It can't tribute. Its effects negated. It can't really do a lot, which is quite useful here. Luckily for them, they opened up the field spell. I use Fallen the Virtuous, because I'm like, I can't let that field spell resolve, because if they do, they like normal summon down Sage. Sage gets a Maiden, and then off they cook. Of course, they could get Maiden. They could then get True Light. True Light's effect, I then respond with Fallen the Virtuous, but I felt that was enough. We're jumping ahead again here, just to kind of show that even with that, with nothing on it, because I was able to re-loop the Fallen and the Virtuous, you see the game state starts to advance a little bit more. We're going to a grind game, and the idea is to show you the battle phase again. This is duel number 2, so during the draw phase, they flip anti-spell fragrance on me. I had already hit them with Herald of the Orange Light and Ash Blossom, but my hand was Contact, Banishment, and then Canby. So I use Canby here, and this is just to kind of show the other disruption that they have on the Canby, because if this resolves, I'm like happy days. I go into the Agent of Creation. I think it's like Mars or something, if I remember rightly. It's not Mars, it's I blink and it ends. It is Moon, Protector of the Moon. So that would then destroy the anti-spell fragrance, but they've got the Magnamut to banish the Night in Shade, and then I can't do anything, so I have to scoot to game 3. This is game 3, and this is basically to show you what happens when I get Nibiru'd. So I got Nibiru'd here. I lost Evening Star, Ixchil, and the Herald Link 2. But luckily I had the Mutiny in the Sky, and this is where Mutiny in the Sky puts in a bit of work, because I get to shuffle back Morning Star, Evening Star, and then another like Dark Fairy is all I've got to do. As long as I use Morning Star on this one, I'm able to work my way into First of the Darklords. So just contemplating what to go for in here. We're like, do we go for the Evening Star? I'm like, you know what, let's use Morning Star as well. We'll get to the First of the Darklords. First of the Darklords effect, I was so used to using a Darklord spell card, which is why I put Mutiny back to the deck, which obviously corrected that and put it into the grave. It looks like it was Ghost Spell that was set face down. This was a bit of a, I would say, a brick fest from both players. We had like 2 or 3 turns where it's just pass, pass, pass. Destroy all the cards, and then in a simplified game state with this field state is pretty good for Darklords, because I've got the ability of the first Darklord to revive from the grave, which can then lead me into any Darklord that has the quick effect to replicate a spell trap, and then I've still got 3 set cards as well that can put in a lot of work for me. So that's it for all of the duels, really. Now we'll take it back to the studio, and I'll give you a breakdown of the deck list, what worked, what didn't work, what I'd want to change, and kind of go from there. So back in a second. Okay, so back from locals, played Darklords. You would have seen some of the matches as well. We did 4 rounds of Swiss. Unfortunately, my first round was a bye. My second round was against Dogmatica Regenesis, which is actually a really good duel. Round 3 was against Yugioh, and then round 4 was against Blue Eye. So you would have seen like the highlights from those duels in like just previously to this. So this is kind of the section where I break down the deck, talk about the changes, the finalizations I put into place, and everything else in between. So I did make a couple of changes prior to going to the tournament. Right at the last minute, I cut a couple of cards. Now, I didn't realise that I'd cut all of my Indulged Darklords, but I ended up cutting all of them. I didn't play a single one of these. Honestly, I don't think I really missed it, because my normal summon of the deck is going to be Jehuti. Now, one big concern I had when I was going into this tournament with this particular build is I was like, you know what? My normal summon is so important. It's always going to get interacted with. I don't know how the deck's going to perform when you take that out of the account. And what I meant by that is, it's like, and it did. I think Jehuti might have resolved like twice over the entire tournament. But what I did find was Ixchil opening up Golgot. And I could be butchering this name, but it's like Golet. But I call it Golgot, but whatever. Open up Golgot and Ixchil was just as insane. Because what you're ultimately doing is you'd go normal summon Jehuti to try and summon the Golgot from the deck. And your opponent more times than not will Ash it, Impo it, Full-Loss it, anything else like that. So I was like, okay, cool. Ixchil would send the Golgot instead. I get the draw 2, and if that gets Ashed or anything, I don't care. I'll just go, cool, Golgot get me the Dance. And then Dance would just banish Ixchil and Golgot anyway, and I'll get the Evening Star. So it's actually a lot more versatile than I gave it credit for initially. The Canby engine as well was really good. 99.999% of the times when I went through the Canby engine, I was making Herald of Mirage Lights, and Herald of Mirage Lights put in a bit of work. So what I'll do is I'll lay out the list. This is going to be a little bit different to other videos that I've done prior, like this, like the other locals experiences. But as I chuck the cards all over the place. There was another spicy card that I added in last minute that I'm actually glad I did, because it ended up doing really well for me. So, like, for the monster lineup, pretty much 3 Jehuti, 3 Ixchil, 3 Golgot. I was actually quite happy with this lineup. I wouldn't want to change any of these. I know some people play less Ixchil, but the amount of times that Ixchil came up to help me on this one, the only reason you could arguably consider cutting this down is if you were to play the Melodious package. I tested with the Melodious package. I said to myself that I was going to be playing it this way anyway, with or without the Melodious package, but I just wanted to test it to see what the Melodious package added, and basically it just added you more more ways of like another starter, like another card that could get ashed. So I didn't think it was that big of a miss. For the one-offs, 1 Tesla Poker, 1 Nasten, 1 Morningstar, and 1 Andusk. Honestly, I used Nasten quite a few times, but the others, they just need to be the more modern Darklords that have the effect to pay 1,000 life points and replicate one of the Darklord spells that traps in the graveyard. I'm quite happy with these, to be honest. I found myself siding out Andusk a couple of times, but you can ultimately use any Darklords you want that have that effect. But I was quite happy with these 4. It didn't really make much of an issue for me, especially when I was playing the Herald of Orange and Herald of Greenlight in the deck as well. They were just really nice kind of hand interactions to use. For the spells of the Darklords, 3 Banishment, 1 Contact, absolutely fine, no issues with that one. 1 Dance, I was kind of tempted to play a second Dance, but then right at the last minute I stopped myself and I put in a different card instead, and I'll show you that when I get to it. And then the final 2 cards are the 2 trap cards, 1 Rebellion, 1 Enchantment. I know a lot of players go for, and I've got it to the side here, I was contemplating it. I know a lot of players like the idea of playing the Sanctified. I honestly didn't think that I needed it. And the reason for that one is I liked Enchantment to take control of my opponent's monsters, because I feel that in modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, like I say about Ghost Ogre all the time, most players are prepared to play around if their card gets negated. If it gets impermed, if it gets dropleted, if it gets veiled, anything like that. They'll then be able to go, right, cool, link it off, do whatever they need to do. Like, the best decks can do that. What the best decks tend to be used to is if they don't have control of that card anymore. The fact that this doesn't target as well is really cool, and the Rebellion doesn't. I like the Rebellion because it lets you destroy any card on the field, so it lets you deal with one of your opponent's cards, whether it be a spell, a trap, or a monster. So I was quite happy with the 2 of these. And the weird thing about these are, you need to have them to set off of the back of the Darklord Evening Star. And the only time Evening Star becomes dead is if you open up both of these. And if you open up both of these, you're not in the best of positions unless you can use a card like Ix-Chill or Nasten to discard them to the graveyard. So honestly, I was quite happy with this ratio. I'm not that tempted to play Sanctified. There will be players out there that will want to play Sanctified. Absolutely fine. I have no issue with that at all. It all comes down to preference. But for me, this is how I like to play it. This worked out quite nicely for me. The supporting cards. So probably just got a glimpse of the spice there. The supporting cards are the 3 Canby and the 1 Nightshade. Like, to me, this engine's like really, really cool. Like, it's really, really cool. Because the idea is that Canby, as long as you can only control fairies, which is what I'm only going to be doing anyway more times than not, you summon down Canby trues itself off for the Nightshade. So straight away, without using a normal summon, it baits out an Ash. It could bait out an Imperm, I doubt it. And then it does bait out graveyard interaction, because as soon as you bring the Nightshade down, the idea is you're supposed to link it off and go into Trickster Bloom. Doesn't have to be Bloom, but any Link 1 Trickster monster's fine. And then you choose to use the effect of Nightshade to bring it back. So at that point, that then opens up the door for your opponent to interact with either the Link monster or the Nightshade. And you're like, cool, if you want to use a Bestial on my Nightshade, that's fine, because then that means when I've got my Gorgot in the graveyard or when I've got my Jehuti in the graveyard, I know that they're going to be free to use. 3 Ash Blossom, pretty staple, and 3 Foolos. And then the other hand interactions that I played was 3 Herald of the Orange Light and 2 Green. Now, I never saw green, so I can't really comment on how effective green was for me. I could see the argument to cutting green or siding green out. That doesn't bother me too much. But Orange Light puts in so much work. This is one of the reasons, like, you're either playing this or you're playing Impulse. So I feel that because I'm playing the Canby as well, like, if I go first, like, these being impulses is fine. Canby is still effective. But I was quite happy with these. Even though I didn't see the green lights, I feel that, you know, if you do see the green lights, a lot of players won't be prepared for you to go, cool, Herald of Green Light. The only issue is there's very few spell cards that you can hit and stop with the Herald of Green Light that they're not going to have more of. So what I mean by that is, yeah, okay, you can hit a Ketu, you can hit a Rahu, but they could then have the Ketu or the Rahu to keep going. So that's sort of like the non-engine monsters. For the non-engine spells and other cards, I went with the Free Fallen and the Virtuous instead of the Super Polarization, because ultimately the way I looked at it is, like, I was discarding quite a lot. Like, I had Forbidden Droplet, which would send me cards and I'd lose advantage that way. Yes, there are a couple of Herald Darklord cards that can let you gain that advantage back. But ultimately I was like, okay, I've got Herald of Green, I've got Herald of Orange that I want to discard. I've also got Forbidden Droplet that wants to send. I've got my 2 Darklord trap cards that want to send as well, and I don't really want to be sending from the field, so I ultimately went with 3 Fallen Virtuous, and this put in a huge amount of work. So I was actually a lot happier to play this than Super Polymerization. 2 Forbidden Crown and 1 Droplet. I could see myself cutting Crown down to 1 and doing a 1-on-1, only because of how easily searchable both these are when you want them, but absolutely fine. And then the Spice, the final card of Spice, was 1 Mutiny in the Sky. So you fusion summon a Fiend or Fairy fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling Fiend and or Fairy monsters from the graveyard into the deck. Now, keeping in mind that the Darklord fusion monsters are Fairies. So what I liked about this is that if my opponent was able to stop my Dance or I couldn't get access to Dance, I could still use Mutiny in the Sky, and rather than banishing my monsters, I would then be able to put them back into the deck to gain resource, and I was able to kind of hold on to these 3 cards here. So, yes, the issue is I'm not paying the Duel, so the Duel can't search it. And the reason I decided not to pay the Duel is because it's a Fiend. If this was a Fairy, this would be busted. Monsters in your leftmost and rightmost main monster zones, main monster zones cannot be destroyed by card effect. Only each of the following effects once per turn. If it's in your hand, you get to target a Fiend effect monster, which you're never going to be able to do, negate its effects and special summon it. But if this card is sent to the graveyard, you add a Mutiny in the Sky. So the idea is if you do hard open up this, you send it, you can get the Mutiny in the Sky, but it's not quite like Darklords where I have the way to burn through my hand very quickly and always guaranteed to discard it. So yes, the 1 Mutiny in the Sky is not searchable. It's not that directly attainable, but I was quite happy with it at 1. It was just something right at the last minute. I was like, you know what? This could work out quite nicely for me. I'll put it in there. I did play the 1 Loose, the Dust Dark, and what makes this one so good is it's 3 Fiend and or Fairy monsters. So that one can actually help you recycle your Herald of Greens, your Herald of Oranges, your Canbies, everything else in between. Whereas these need to be level 6 or higher Darks or 3 Dark Fairies, so they can't recycle them. This can also help you recycle like your Herald of the Mirage Light as well, which is quite nice. But yeah, I put this one in. I actually quite like Mutiny. I wouldn't play it at 3. I think 3 is way too much because it's kind of one of the ones that needs that graveyard setup. But, you know, you could cut it out if you wanted to, but I quite liked it. The extra is pretty standard, apart from a few cards, which I'll talk through in a minute. But, like, 2 Evening Star, I can't imagine anyone playing less than 2. There might be an argument for 3. Honestly, I don't think there is. But a 2 and a 1, I think, is absolutely fine. I'm quite happy with this ratio. 2 Herald of Mirage, 2 Condemned. Again, pretty straightforward on that one. 1 Protection. This one actually came up a couple of times today. So, like, these are the ones that I summoned the most. So, these ones I've got no issues with. SP Little Knight, never summoned it. Technically, I actually summoned Trickstar Bloom and Almirage more than I did SP Little Knight. A grand total of 0, and I think twice and once. So, kind of just shows you what you're looking at there. The Almirage is purely because if your Jehuti does get negated and you've got nothing else to do, or you've got like Contact or something, you have to turn it into Almirage, and then at the very least, you can then go into a SP Little Knight. But remember, your Jehuti needs to be fully negated, otherwise you're locked into Fairies. So, you know, ifs and buts. 1 Typhon, never made it. I used Ecclesia and Albion. So for those of you that are new to how the Fallen Virtuous works now with the new Ecclesia, the first one sends the Albion. The Albion then sets you the second Fallen Virtuous. Ideally, you want to be getting that Fallen Virtuous for your turn. Even if you don't, it doesn't make that big of a difference. But you activate the second Fallen Virtuous, you send the Ecclesia. And then when it comes back to your turn, hello. When it comes back to your turn, you use Ecclesia's graveyard effect to put Albion and itself back into the deck, and then you target one other card on your opponent's field and put that back into the deck as well. So that's quite useful. And that's pretty much it, apart from the loose as well. Never summoned this because when I had Mutiny in the Sky, I went for Evening Star instead. I actually think I went for the first Darklords. But this you can also summon. You can also summon it with Dreams, I believe. Where are we? Not that you ever really want to. Dreams, Dance. So Dance lets you fusion summon any Dark Fairy fusion monster from the edge deck by banishing materials from the hand, field, and or grave as material. Monster special by this effect gains 1,000 attacks. So it would actually get you put you as a base of 45, which is pretty cool. If you summon a Darklord fusion monster this way, you get to use Darklord monster your opponent controls as material, which if you're not playing Indulged, they're never going to have a monster you control, which I didn't miss this card. Like I said at the start, I could see myself playing one of this, but I didn't really miss it. And then this just gives you protection on leftmost and rightmost, and then if a card is destroyed, you get to destroy another one. So when you're working off with cards like your Rebellion, that could be pretty cool. Actually, no, because there's another card you need to have is destroyed by card effect, but you never summoned it. It was just like one of these ones where I was like, I have a bit of space in the extra deck, what do I want to put in? And like these were just like options that I added in. I still can't figure out what else I'd want to put in for these 3 spaces. Like these are just utility cards of if the worst happens, I have these as options. And then just for the extra deck as well, sorry, side deck. So for the side deck for the monsters, 2 Droll. I think I put it in once, never saw it. 2 Perulia and 2 Meows. I would probably now consider pumping Perulia up to 3. The rest of the local environment was Magnets, Magnet Warriors, then there was Tri-Brigade and Branded, so a bit of a range. The last monster was 3 Nibiru, put this in once, never saw it. And then the final 6 cards I was playing were trap cards, and that was 3 Iron Thunder, so you've got your cards you put in going first to take out your Molchami Fuelos, and then I got 3 evenly matches. So you can kind of see like the way my side deck is split. You've got your Iron Thunders for going first, you've got your evening matches for going second, Nibiru's for first or second, Meows for second, Perulia for second, and then Droll for first or second. So literally if I'm 100% going first, these are coming in unless these are going to be more effective in that matchup for the Fueloses. If I'm going second and this is effective but my Fueloses isn't, these can go in for Fuelos and you've got changes for these and, you know, bit of everything really. So that's pretty much it for like the list breakdown. Overall, I was actually really happy with how the deck performed. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it's like 41 because I made changes right at the last minute. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, it's 42. So it's 42 cards. I think I was at like 44, 45 when I had the 2 Indulged Darklords and I only ended up taking them out. And like I said before I went to the tournament, there was a couple of cards I was considering. So ultimately I just made some changes right at the last minute, which is why the Herald of the Green could arguably come out and make your deck 40 to make it a little bit more consistent. But I was relatively happy with it. I want to give the deck another run out. Unfortunately, my locals, unfortunately, my locals for the next couple of weeks are going to be Genesis orientated. So I've got Exorcists that I want to try out. There's Chimera Heckahands I want to trial out. I did hear about a branded Darklord deck that was running around at a Genesis event today, which sounds actually quite interesting because I can only imagine the Darklords don't take up a lot of points. And you would use Branded Fusion to try and work your way into like Evening Star or something, maybe. I haven't seen the list or anything. It's just something that a friend told me. I was like, oh, that sounds quite interesting. But if I can make Darklords work in Genesis, then maybe it's worth having a look at. So that's pretty much it. So you've got the pre-event, you've got the actual duels themselves as well to give you a bit of an insight, and then you've got the after the event. So I was quite happy with it. Ultimately, I wouldn't say I won the event, but I was 3-1, the same as 2 other players. Basically, the people that were 3-1, we all beat each other. So, yeah, you'll see the duels anyway. But yeah, basically, I lost to one. That person then lost to the next person. Then I faced that other person in the last round and won that one. It was just a weird, just not even a triangle. Weird triangle? Does that work? There you go. Weird triangle of how it went at locals. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying these local experience vlog-esque kind of things. I'm not too sure how to really put them. But we do have the UK Open coming up. That'll be a little bit of a different type of vlog style. There is Genesis on the Sunday of the UK Open as well. And then we've got UK Nationals coming. I mean, we're only in February, but it's mad to think that we've got UK Open next month. We've just had YCS 300, so like the day of the locals was YCS 300. At the time of recording this video, we only know who won Dortmund, and the deck was Vanquish Soul Canine. But there was like 5 Draco Tail branded in the top cut with 1 Malice, 1 Vanquish Soul Canine, and there was 1 more. Apologies, completely escapes me. It wasn't Mitsurugi. It wasn't. Oh, Radiant Typhoon. It was Radiant Typhoon. So, and literally after I finish recording this, I'm going to be booting up Richmond just to see, because I think they're in the final round of Swiss right now. So So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what gets the top 8 there, and if it's relatively the same kind of, a lot of players are on the branded Dracotal strategy, so it'll be interesting to see where that one goes. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.